before the leather strip comes out. This way. That is to keep the two lids from scratching each other. Mike, come over here. And then once the lid is removed, or come on the other side. Lift the lid over. You have the top stick, which supports the lid. During transit, this stick needs to be tied. And it's just a cloth strip that's tied around the square knot, most likely, to keep this from flopping around. There's a felt pad on the bottom of the stick. All right, this is the bolts that were removed from the piano as we start to reinstall, just to go over them. These are the 4-inch bolts that go in the bottom of the bass crate. These are the two 3-inch and a 2.5-inch bolt that go in the top of the bass crate and the lid. You have your 4 wing nuts that hold the ramp closed. And these are the 3 bolts that hold the piano to the bass. 2 in the front and 1 in the rear. And again, you have your 3/4 inch socket wrench, 9/16 and a 7/16 wrench and sockets. And this is your 5/16 Allen wrench to remove or install the legs, the lifting legs. Okay, to put our piano back in our crate, as you can see, we have already reinstalled the lifting legs. We put our blanket protection in, and we removed our front bolts, our front 2 bolts and our rear bolt, using our padding in case we drop a bolt and don't damage the piano. Our legs are locked in position, and we're ready to raise the piano back to height. There are 3 pinholes drilled into the metal below this lifting arm. So now when you raise the piano back to height, you look for the pinholes, and that gives you the indication to stop lifting. Okay, prior to lifting the piano, we've put back in place tied our top stick down to the frame, ready for travel. We've put our music desk pad on. We also have put in place our foam to lock in the music desk, which is 2 layers. Make sure the lower layer is in so that the upper layer doesn't fall down and disappear during travel. So there's 2 layers of foam. After that, you lift your lid, remove your leather pad, place your leather pad on the inside. I'm going to slide the leather in a little. Okay, your leather is now covering your foam pad. And then your lid closes. Oh, also, at this point, which we didn't show you on the first step, is to put a little piece of felt on either end of the lid, covering where this section of the lid fits down into the piano. Okay, we're going to also add felt on either side of the keyboard lid, the full board. Felt has to be down below the metal brace because there's not enough room to raise it with the felt in between the lid and the metal brace. Also, at this point, we want to mention that during any time, the piano is never to be moved by grabbing hold of the brass scroll. If you grab this brass scroll to try and roll the piano around, you can dislodge the brass scroll. It won't come out, but it will loosen the joint where it meets the piano on the upper section. Okay, lifting the piano back up, because you don't have the crate to guide your height, you're going to go until you see some pinholes exposed underneath the lifting arm. Okay, you can see here, there's a pinhole here, and there's another one on the side, and probably another one on the other side. There's about 3 pinholes, depending on the locations. One here, and one here. As long as you're above those pinholes, you're high enough for the crate and the bass to come in and out. All right, on removal of the bass, you have to make sure somebody is holding the shift lever up again, and keep an eye and just make sure everything clears the piano. Point roll this way, Jer, so we can get our ramps down. And we're going to roll the bass back in, being mindful of the tail end and the
wheels are on.
and the piano. The wheels are next to the columns. Bump. There you are, I'm good on this side.
Sir.
Remember to have one person keep a hand on it so it doesn't roll downhill. Also helps not marring the bolts so you don't cross thread the bolts by having too much pressure on them if you're not holding the base in place. Point. It's very important that these bolts get put back in to the ramps, because when this crate is flipped up and if the ramp is to open, these gates are flying down onto the base. This ramp will be stopped by this block, but it will be flapping around inside, and this ramp should clear, but we don't want that to happen, so make sure these winglets get in and are secured tightly, please. Okay, these two bolts have to come out. And we'll put our lid back up. Our ramp. Replace lid number 2 first. Remove the bolt holding the center latch. Watch your legs on the poles, Greg. Yeah. Now before you lock the whole lid down, you should check the bolt through the lid first to make sure the position is good. So you want to take your 3 bolts for your lid. You have your 2 3-inch and your 1 2.5. Make sure this bolt aligns properly first. See in there. Okay. Make sure you can get that started. Then you can put lid number 1 on. It's still on one side. Up. In. Yeah. So where the red just starts. Rotating around the hole.
There's a hole down there for his leg.
Somewhere over there.
Let me know when you got it.
You kind of actually came back this way, probably a foot. So before we roll up, again, we extended our arms. Our wheels are in position and locked. And again, we're going to use 4 guys to lift, maybe 2 guys to foot. The hard part is when you get to this position that it doesn't start to roll away on you. You got to get past that tipping point to get vertical.
Can you come around? Do this.
Here, you got on the end of the side on the rod there. Okay. On 3, 1, 2, 3. Up.
Come around, someone?
Around. Okay, drop her down easy.
All right.
Oh.
That's not so bad.
Now you can lower your rods back down. replacing the bolt in the bottom of the rod and making sure you tighten it with the wrenches so that it can't fall off and travel. After your crate is upright, you have to replace the 4 bolts on the bottom of the crate.
Wrenches for that.
Making care not to cross thread anything. These are the 4-inch, half-inch bolts. Make sure they go in easily. Okay, and tighten those. They don't need to be extra tight, they just need to be secure. It keeps the crate from sprinting out and keeps from rattling inside of it. Okay, make sure your height is clear again. Roll your case underneath. There's a tight fit between jack stands, which should keep you pretty well lined up. And as you can see, we're holding the shift lever up in the air again. And you're going to want to go till you get close enough to the piano. And there's a mark on the case. That should be the line. Hold on. The line of the front of the piano. Roll the case back, please. This line is the edge of the front of the piano. Lines up with this part of the piano to your line. That gets you close enough to start lining your bolts up. All right, now before the crate goes all the way against the piano, you need to put your cover back down. And you need to tuck your cover over.
No.
Well, you're going to have to deal with the jack stand, but you have to get this down before you can put the... Okay, so...
Yeah.
Now you notice up here, the wood is close to the top of the piano. Once the piano is lowered, it's below the wood, but your cushion will hit the side of the piano before your wood hits the piano. At this point, we're lowering the piano down, getting it close to our 3 locations. You want to stay about a ½ inch away till everybody's evenly down. Keeping an eye on the cover that it doesn't get bound up. Also, you have to watch the lever that doesn't get caught on this bolt as you go down. And as a note for the back pin, in the back, the aluminum pin goes into a bolt hole next to the brass pin in the rear. It doesn't, the brass pin does not go on the aluminum pin. So as we are all about a ½ inch away, okay, make sure everybody's still good. Close with our location, or do we have to shift a little? I think we have to shift down to the back a little, Greg.
Yeah,
At least I do.
I'm pretty close. So maybe it's the rotation.
Okay.
Good here, that's good.
Okay, pretty close. I'm going to go down closer. You want to leave a little bit of gap above your aluminum so you can see the bolt in the hole at the same time. If you drop down to the aluminum block, you won't be able to tell if your bolt is in the right location or not. So once you get close, you start using lifting your bolt and aligning it with the hole. At this point, it may require somebody on the outside pushing the crate against the side of the piano. You need to compress the foam between the piano and the thing. It wants to be tight because that's where all the weight's happening.
catch mine.
Okay, so you want to push in, little Jerry?
Yeah, as well. What is that, a 3/4 inch?
3/4. I have to come down a little bit. Wow, that was easy. As soon as you get your bolts started, and all 3 of them are started, then lower the rest of the weight down so the piano is sitting loose. Then tighten your bolts up. Do not secure your bolts 100% tight. Just get them snug. It's enough to hold the piano while it rolls over. We want the weight to transfer to the bottom of the piano as it rolls up. Okay, when you're putting the 3 bolts in the piano from underneath, it's better to line up the front 2 bolts before you put the 3rd one in. If you put the 3rd one in the back, it makes it a little bit more difficult to get the front 2 lined up. Okay, at this point, once your bolts are in place, your piano is now held by the crate. You can remove your 3 jack stands. Set them off to the side. Once the 3 jack stands are off, you can start reassembling your crate, starting with the 2 sides, number 4 and 5. Put those back in place. Then put your number 3, your long side, back in. After those are in, make sure you don't forget about your key block, your keyboard foam. Okay, make sure your piano cover is tucked in neatly. It's a little problem where the bolt is, and flat on the side of the piano. It's a very snug fit, and if your cover is all bunched up, you won't be able to get the side crate back on. The front here needs to be pushed up so that your keyboard foam goes in place, writing out. The inside has a bevel which goes down into the piano. This bevel rotates in. Okay, you'll notice that there's a space on the crate around where the brass scrolls are, because they protrude from the side of the piano, and the reason is to keep any pressure off of the scroll. Okay, we can put the sides back on. You'll notice there's a lip.
Are we going the right way?
Yes. There's a lip on this piano that lands on top of the other lip, so it'll self-support the bottom edge of it. Around here, this side, maybe. Where the side lips over top. You guys got to lift up on your end, Mike. We'll just let the top go out, please.
Bring it up.
Okay.
Oh,
You gotta watch the cover.
this side,
You gotta
more,
come to me.
up higher.
Guys in. You guys gotta push in. Yeah, it's tight against the block. So you can see the keyboard is in place. Making sure, try and keep it as low as possible before you put the side in. It will stick up a little bit higher than the piano case is okay. You don't want to push down too hard on the keys. Now, jerk them out. Let me get this on first. We got 2 bolts there, the phone goes over. Okay.
You wanna get that in?
No handles. All right, this is a very snug fit. You make sure the lid, the cover is nice and flat on the side of the piano here. So this side now, if you can possibly even get this one. As all your sides are back on your crate, making sure all your buckles are connected and closed properly. Don't forget to put the jack stands back in. A small piece of foam should go on top of the jack stands. Take it out, put your jack stands in, and then your foam. At this point, I'll do the beginning. A reminder that the back jack stand is painted black, and the 2 front jack stands are still red and have the word front written on them, as the back jack stand is needs to be a little bit taller.
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah, I did.
Which side goes against?
Clean side on goes down.
Clean side down. Kind of self-explanatory. Okay. And tops back on.
1C or
Don't think it matters, but we can put 2C on, do it in reverse. Remember to try and rotate this way. The idea is not to carry the lid over top of the piano at all possible, so that no problems can arise. Yeah, you're gonna have to push in on this. Pull those pins to you.
you get on this side? Yep.
Watch it bubble. We have the bolts there. You can drop it in the hole, Mike, and it'll ride in there. It'll ride right in there. This
Right.
way you don't have to. Lift your end in, Mike, and push it. She's in. Don't forget to put the 3 bolts connecting the piano base to the piano back in the tool bag for the next person. Once again, we're going to lift with 6 guys. We're going to lift it up. As we get the weight up, 2 guys are going to run around and foot the piano, and then maybe another 2 guys at the end run around to slowly level it onto the 4 wheels. On 3, 2, 3. Okay, go around. Nice and easy. All right. So once she's vertical, you can unlock your wheels again, and then remove your cradle bolts, your 4 bolts here. And then you have to remove your 3 bolts on either side of the cradle on the wheel truss, and fold your trusses up. Okay. One spot where you need a 1/2 inch right here. You guys might need just a few wrenches together. Okay, once all the bolts are removed and you fold up your wings, at this point right now we have a bolt that slips through, tying the 2 brackets together. In the future, there may be a padlock instead. This padlock's not the right size, but a padlock may be there to secure these in place. And then you would have 2 padlocks, and then when you open the door, instead of your bolt, you would use your padlock to lock your arms in position. again, the right size padlock. You would require 4 padlocks. So since you only have 2 here, there's a spot for 2 more padlocks to hang. At this current time, we're using bolts for everything here. As you close these up, you replace your small bolts or your padlocks. Be used. If you have no padlocks, replace your bolts in their positions, tightening them up so they can't fall out on transit. Everything has a lock nut on these. And then replace your long bolts. Jerry, want to put one of these bolts in? Replace your carriage bolts here and secure them snugly so they remain in position for travel. Okay, if you fold in your wheel trusses, make sure you secure this bolt, 7/16 bolt. That keeps these from flapping around. If it's loose, these are going to flop back and forth. Just do a double check, make sure all your buckles are secure, all your butterfly latches are locked, your wheels are unlocked, and you're ready to roll.